Hello and welcome. My name's Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind the Country Chic Cottage. Today we're going to talk about xTool Creative Space. So if you have an xTool laser, you will want to watch this video to see how to use xTool Creative Space. I'm going to go through several of the functions within the software so that you know how to use them to best use your xTool laser. Now, if you haven't purchased a laser yet, or you're looking at an xTool laser, this would also be a great video for you to watch. You can see how complicated, actually it's not complicated, how easy the software is to use, and then it'll help you make your purchasing decision. I feel like xTool Creative Space is one of the better softwares out there for lasers in comparison with other brands of lasers and the software used for them. I feel like xTool Creative Space is further along and easier to use than a lot of the versions on the market. So I'm going to walk through the buttons, how to use it, sort of designing a project, and then we're going to have a project and sort of walk through how you make that project with your laser. Now the process that I'm going to go through is the same no matter what type of xTool laser that you have. The process for designing and getting your images into xTool Creative Space is basically the same. You would just pick different lasers, and then your laser might have different functions or you might have different accessories. However, the basics are the same for the software itself. So let's dive into xTool Creative Space. Let's take a look inside xTool Creative Space. When you first open the program, you will have a variety of projects on the front screen. The top will be ones that you recently opened. You'll have trending projects and various projects that you can open. Now, all of these may not be free depending on if you have a subscription or not, so you just click each one to find out. Then if you go to My Space, this is where you can save projects on the cloud. And then finally on the left-hand side, we have Design Find. Design Find is a great resource where you can find community shared assets or assets that the community has made. Across the top, there are tons of ways to sort through those assets to find projects that you want to make. And you can also try their AIMake. So if we click this, AIMake is a great resource where you can use this to make things that perhaps you want to try with your laser with a variety of prompts. So when you first open it, you can click Try AIMake for free. And then after you log in, you can see a variety of things. Now, the AIMake, you can make vector designs for like 2D type of graphics. You can also make designs that are for 3D effects for engraving, logos, and tons more designs. So anything that you might want to make with your xTool laser, you can probably use this to design it. So up here at the top, first let's try a random prompt. At the top, you can choose a style. So what kind of style are you looking for? So let's say that I wanted to do a 3D engraving and I wanted it to be this sort of low relief. And then I could describe what I want to make. So I could start off with something simple like a horse head and click generate. Once it's done generating, we can see those options and we can say that maybe this is a good one. We could download it to local or just click the button to import it right into xTool Creative Space. So this is a great way to use this to make your own designs. We could also change this up and do a vector and say a line icon and do horse head for this one, and we would get completely different results. So now you see how you can use AIMake to make your own designs. So now we'll go back to the home page, and that's all of the options on the left except for the shop button. If you click the shop button, you head directly to the xTool shop where you can buy equipment, supplies, and so much more. So now if we want to start a project, we could just click one of these buttons, or we can click New Project up in the right-hand corner. Across the top, you can pull down your main menu, which will allow you to do several things. You can also save your project, and you can change your processing modes. If you're using a rotary attachment or curved material, you can change your processing mode here. Then you would use this button if you were using the xTool app to get a photo of the bed of your laser. You can also mark your processing area by clicking this button. This is where you would input your distance. However, I like to use the auto measure feature whenever I'm using my lasers. Then finally across the top, you can pick your materials with this button. If we click more xTool materials, you can see a wide variety of materials that are within xTool Creative Space. So let's just pick one of these, let's say a 3mm birch plywood. And once you pick that, you can see that with a 20-watt laser, this is what the settings would be if I was going to cut it out. And the green one is what xTool recommends. So this would be for cutting that 3mm birch plywood. Now let's say that I wanted to score or engrave it. I could pick the score. Again, a grid pulls up. This is the recommendation from xTool, but you could change it if you wanted a darker score. And then again, we can pick engrave, and we can see a similar laser grid. This is what xTool recommends, but we can change it up using the speed and power on these grids to get a different type of engraving if we would like. Then down the left-hand side, the first button is going to be to import an image. And when you click it, you can find an image on your computer. And so let's say I'm going to import an SVG file. Importing an SVG file is best for cutting and engraving, in my opinion. You can upload image files to this as well, especially if you're using the xTool M1 Ultra and would like to print. The second button is where you can add text, so you click that button, click anywhere over here, and start typing your text. The third button is where you can draw a line, rectangles, or circles, so you just pick the type of thing you want and draw it right on the canvas. The next button is vector, and that's where you could just sort of freehand a design with the vector tool. There's a variety of tools at the top with the vector tool. I won't go into the vector tool completely. I'm just going to click done. I'm actually going to delete the vector off. And so if you right click on any object, you get a wide variety of options. I'm going to use the delete to remove that vector. Next is the shape options. So if you don't like the circle, square, line options of the button at the top, you can go to the shape button and get even more shape options and use these for your designs. And on each of these, we could click more and find even more designs. So you can see right now that these are Halloween, Christmas themed, but depending on the time of year that you use this, you will get a wide variety of options, and you can add each of those to your canvas. Now I'm going to cover the bottom three buttons here in a few minutes. Let's take a look at the options that open up. Say once you import this image, there are tons of options that open up here on the right-hand side. If I don't have anything picked, you can see at the top there is the laser that I'm using, and you can switch devices. So I have various xTool lasers and I can use them all with one xTool Creative Space application. I would just switch to that device and connect to it. I can see the device settings, and I can even click a user guide for the device I'm using. Next is the settings overview for the things that are on my canvas already. So these two objects are together and there are some settings associated with those. So when I click the sunflower, I can see that it's a compound vector, and right now it has it as an engraving. If I'm okay with that, I could leave it as engrave, or I could change it to cut lines or score lines or back to engraving lines. You can see that importing this, it made it at a power of 1, speed of 80. But if I go back to this material and find the material that I'm actually using for, say, the project that I'm making, so we're going to go back to that birch plywood, and we can click open in XCS on this material. So now the material that I'm going to use from this project is 3mm birch plywood, and I can see that for my sunflower, the settings have now changed. For an engraving, it is a power of 60 and a speed of 250 with one pass, 100 lines per centimeter, and the engraving mode is bidirectional. And I can continue on and click each of these elements to see what it recommends. And again, if I change them, say to a cut, it'll change the settings to reflect that cut type. And I can change the settings here. Again, say I wanted to score the snowflake, but I wanted it darker than the xTool recommended settings. I could change this to a power of 80 and a speed of 50 and get this look instead of the look recommended by xTool Creative Space. For the text, you can double click it and change it at any time. And when you click the text up at the top, a bunch of options open up, and that includes the font. And you can go ahead and change your font to whatever you would like. If you scroll down, you'll see system typefaces, and those are the typefaces that are actually on your computer. So anything that's on your computer will be listed on here as well. So you can just kind of pick the font that, say, you wanted to use for your project. When I click any other object, options open up at the top as well. And here is where you could change the X and Y is the location, but you could change the size here. So if I wanted to make sure this circle was completely round and say a 10-inch circle, I would make sure that both of these said 10 inches. And in order to do that, I would need to unlock and make sure both said 10 inches. And now I can guarantee that this circle is completely round and not oblong at all. You could also say for the snowflake, I could change the rotation here, and I could rotate it, say 15 degrees, and it would rotate it around. So if I had a specific rotation in mind, I could use that. You can also use some of the other options at the top to reflect things, to bring things to the front or send to the back, as well as to align things on the canvas. So if I aligned this in the center of the canvas, as well as this in the center of the canvas, we could lay those on top of one another. You can also resize things. If I pick the sunflower, I can use the corners to resize things to whatever I would like. And there is also a rotation that I can use on the canvas. For all these, I could also edit the file itself. So with this, it shows all of the points. Now this is a more advanced technique, but you can edit the points within xTool Creative Space or even remove some of them if you would like. Now the bottom two buttons on the left-hand side are where we have already been. So I took you to the designs and the AIMake on the front screen, but you can also access those here. The third button from the bottom is applications. There are a wide variety of applications in this area that might be something that you want to use. I've used the material test array in another video on making laser test grids, and I will link to that in the description below this video. You could also do things like I have my snowflake picked and I could do a grid array with it, 2 columns and 2 rows, and click done, and it makes 4 in an array. So if you have a grid array or a circular array that you would like to make with an object, you can use those applications. The code generation, you can make a QR code or a barcode. You could try out the batch fill if you had a ton of objects, say hearts that you wanted to put a snowflake on each one of them, and you had them all in your laser. You could try out the batch fill to fill those. This entire time I've been using my arrow as my pointer, but there is also a hand, and that will move the canvas around. And then you can also click layers down here in the bottom left, and you can see all of your layers. So we have the circle, the hello, the compound vector that we uploaded, and then the group is the group of snowflakes because it did group them together. So we can see the layers here, and here's where you could hide some of your layers. So if I already had cut the hello, I could use the eye to hide that layer. And so when I went to process, if the layer was hidden, it would not actually process. So now I'm going to show you with a project that I've designed how you actually send a project to your xTool. So let's take a look at that process. Go ahead and open your machine and add your material to the inside. Here I am using the triangular prisms as well as the triangular prism holder. And we'll move the laser head to about the center of the material, and go ahead and pick auto measure within xTool Creative Space. This will auto measure the thickness of your material. Next, we're going to mark our processing area. So I'm going to mark the entire square of material so I know exactly where my material is within my xTool M1 Ultra. So first click mark, pick rectangle and click start marking. For the rectangle, you want to mark 2 points, so basically the corners, and you will use the button on the front of the xTool M1 Ultra. Move the laser head by hand, hit the button on the front for 1 point, then move it to the second point and hit the button on the front for the second point. Once you've picked both those points, just click end marking and then click done. Now on your screen, you can see your material itself. The red crosshairs also mark exactly where the laser head is. So I went to my machine, I moved the laser head, and as you can see, the crosshairs did move. Now I can move my entire project wherever I want it on my material. So I'm going to put it fairly close to the top corner just to utilize the most out of my material. And so now we have our distance, we have marked our material, and our settings are set for each of our cuts. So now we can go ahead and process this cut. Just click process. It does tell me my laser module is installed, and it tells me how long it will take. So 9 minutes and 50 seconds to cut and engrave both these pieces. So now we can go ahead and click start. Then you want to press the button on the front of the machine in order to start the process. The next thing we're going to want to do is to do framing. So I'm going to click the framing button. Now you use the button on the front of your machine to frame your design. So I'm going to click the button on the front of the machine. And if you'll watch the crosshairs, this is where my engraving will be. You can press the button again to get a better look. If you think you need to make adjustments, you can move the tumbler and press the button again and just keep framing until you decide that everything is going to be on the tumbler where you would like it. Next, I'm going to click framing completed and I'm going to click process. So now you've seen how to use xTool Creative Space, and hopefully you learned a little something and can start using it to its full potential. I feel like it has a ton of features that a lot of people are not aware of, and seriously, that AI feature where you can add prompts and just sort of make your own design is really incredible. I really am in love with the AI feature, especially for like if I want to do a deep engraving. I can't really do that with a lot of the other AI tools that are out there. So the version within xTool Creative Space allows me to say make something specifically for engraving, even if I don't see the specific file or the specific thing that I want out there within the designs in xTool Creative Space, or even if I'm looking to purchase a design and I just can't find what I want. AIMake is a great resource to get exactly what you want and be able to create it with your xTool laser. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions about xTool Creative Space, drop down in the comment section, ask away. If you like this video and it helped you, give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, head on over to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. I have videos just like this one every single week, and trust me, you don't want to miss any of those. So thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.